दोस्तों, स्वागत है आपका मेरे YouTube चैनल नेटवर्क सुरक्षा में। आज हम जानेंगे नेट के बारे में। व्हाट इज़ नेट? नेटवर्क एड्रेस ट्रांसलेशन। जैसा इसका नाम है वैसा ही इसका काम है। सो हम पहले जानेंगे नेट की ज़रूरत क्यों पड़ी। जैसा हम सब जानते हैं कि प्राइवेट आईपी के साथ में कम्युनिकेट कर सकती है डायरेक्टली, एंड पब्लिक आईपी के साथ में कम्युनिकेट कर सकती है directly if they are reachable to each other. So if I want to communicate from the private IP to public IP, then NAT comes in picture. So what NAT does, NAT translate a private IP to public IP or public IP to private IP. और सो ये mainly 3 टाइप्स होते हैं इसके: स्टैटिक नेट, डायनामिक नेट एंड पैट। जैसा इसका नाम है हम जानेंगे स्टैटिक नेट। व्हाट इज स्टैटिक नेट? इन द स्टैटिक नेट इज प्राइवेट आईपी और पब्लिक आईपी मैप विद द यूनिक पब्लिक आईपी और प्राइवेट आईपी। सो वी कैन सी it happens only one-to-one mapping. Okay, mainly it is used when you want to access any internal server over the internet. So we do the public net private IP netting with in the static net. Second is dynamic net. What is a dynamic net? In the dynamic net, we net the internal IPs with the possible pool of the public IPs. For an example, हमारे पास में 4 IP अवेलेबल हैं public IP, and there are lots of the private IPs available. So only 4 private IPs can communicate with the destination with help of the possible 4 public IPs available. And what is the PAT? PAT is a type of dynamic net, but in this scenario we use the single public IPs with the different ports. So basically it translates the ports with a single public IP. And we will also talk about what is the source net and destination net. So in the source net is the process of one of the NAT process. In this source NAT process, source IP is changed. So I give you an example of the source NAT. So let's suppose you have a router or firewall, and there is a internet link connected with the firewall, and you are hosted behind the firewall in the private network. If you want to access any public hosted website from your LAN side, from your inside, so definitely your private IP should get changed in the public IP, because हम सब जानते हैं कि प्राइवेट आईपी पब्लिक आईपी के साथ में डायरेक्टली कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर सकती। ये पॉसिबल है केवल नेट के थ्रू। सो लेट्स सपोज यू आर होस्टेड बिहाइंड द फायरवॉल इन द 10.10. फॉर एन एग्जांपल 10.10.1.0/24 सबनेट. So when you initiate the traffic, let's suppose you want to access any service, that is let's suppose it's a google.com. So when you will initiate the traffic from the LAN system, so your request will be in this format. So at the PC, source will be your 10.10.1. something IP, and destination will be google.com. Source port can be any random port, destination port will be original port, the service is running at which port. And traffic comes on the firewall, and firewall check all the routing part, policies part, and when the traffic goes out from the firewall does the netting We have defined the configuration at the firewall for the netting. If any traffic comes from the LAN side with the source 10.1.1.0/24 subnet and wants to communicate with the google.com or any public hosted application or internet, so that private segment must be changed in the private public IP, that is the 124 125 1.1.2. So it can be real IP in the real scenario. So I took it for an example. So when the traffic initiates from the LAN side, so source will be the 10.10.1.x and destination will be google.com or any internet service. This source port will be any random port and destination port will be original port on which port service is running. So traffic comes at the firewall and firewall check all the routing part, policy part, and when the traffic goes out from the firewall NAT the traffic. So now you can see here, when the traffic goes out from the firewall, source is changed. Now source will be the 125.1.1.2, that is the public IP, and destination is also google.com, that is also public. So now public IP can communicate with the public IP. So request was for the from the private IP to public IP, but at the firewall request get changed in the from private to public. So source net works in this format. So we come on the destination net also. So destination net. So let's suppose you have a firewall with the internet connection, and in your LAN side you have a server in the private network. So you want to make it accessible over the internet. You can say you are a home user working from the remote location, want to access your internal server from the public network. So you also know you cannot access any private subnet or private IP over the internet. So in this scenario, a destination net works. So what does firewall? So we configure the things at the firewall for the denetting. So we configure 125.1.1.1 for the 10.1.1.2 netting. So end users which is available in the private network will initiate the request for the IP 125.1.1.1. So at the user machine, request will be in this format. Source will be the any public IP, destination will be the 125.1.1.1. Source port can be any random port and destination port will be original port, which port service is running. So traffic comes at the firewall checks all the routing part, first netting part also, is there any denetting happening or not. So firewall get the traffic for the denetting, and it check request is coming for 125. Yes, I have an entry for the denetting, so that should be change or NAT with the 10.1.1.2 IP. So when the traffic goes out towards to LAN inside from the firewall, now request will be in this format. Source will be original, source will be remain same, but destination will get changed. Now destination is 10.1.1. Earlier it was 125.1.1.1, and source port is any random port, and destination port will be original port. So in this scenario you can see destination IP is changed. Public IP to private IP netting happens. That's it. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to like and subscribe my channel.